when you meet somebody new, you say, what do you do? What's your job? What are your hobbies? What are you into? Well, I play baseball, I do this. And I still say, I'm an Eagle Scout. You know, that's just something that I identify with. And I owe that to for being in Troop 72. So it's something I have a lot of fond memories, of which I'll share some. I know this could easily turn into a roast, so I know there's going to be a few jokes about Mr. Graham snoring and my dad snoring. And as a kid, that was funny to me. But as I became a man that became one of those snorers, it's not so funny. So I'm going to let that one pass. My highlights, as most, I guess even this tradition is still gone on, the Troop 72 bad weather finds it. So some of my most memorable moments in scouting have also been my most miserable moments. And I'm not sure if this number is because of wind chill or if it was a true degree, and I think it was because of wind chill. But Troop 72 hosted a Klondike, and it was in Brethren Woods. And one night it got down to -15 degrees. There's a lot of interesting things that happen scientifically at -15 degrees. You know, a lot of you scouts might own 0-degree bags. No longer rated for this weather. You have to take your water bottle not only inside your tent, but inside your sleeping bag with you to keep it from freezing overnight. And the moisture in your breath overnight will collect on the inside of the top of the roof of your tent. And the roof of your tent is -15 degrees. So if you have the good fortune, you will bump the tent as you're leaving in the morning, and it'll snow inside your tent, your own breath, which is lovely. But it's one of those moments, like I wear these moments as like badges of pride. Maybe because it just makes me look like, you know, some type of action hero from a movie or whatnot, but I remember those moments, these miserable moments as things that I accomplished, these things that I carry with me. They used to have a joke in Camp Shenandoah, I don't know if they still do. What's the weather going to be like this morning? They say, well, it's bright and sunny, humid by midday, chance of showers in the evening, clear by evening. Or chance of showers by afternoon, clear by evening. That was always it. It was a joke because it's always that. It came. So we had wilderness survival one night. As the merit badge, they make you go out to the wilderness by yourself, no tent. You get to have a Hungry Man meal, which is your raw potatoes and carrots and hamburger, and you can just grill, just throw the whole tin foil into the fire and cook it. They give you some matches, they give you a flashlight, and no sleeping bags. So you have to make a apparatus or A-frames out of twigs and everything else. It's very close to being like a caveman. So Piers, Bradley, and I went out that night, and we were wearing shorts and t-shirts because it's camp weather. For whatever reason, it dropped to 60 degrees and started raining. And we were out there, we were miserable, and we built this really great A-frame. And we made a pact that I'm going to break tonight and say that we would never speak of it. But we shared one emergency blanket because it was all that Pierce had brought. And we were definitely closer than any other scout I've ever been with another scout. So funny thing is, we're all sleeping under this A-frame, and in the middle of the night, I think I remember Brad saying we had to go to the bathroom because there was more blanket. And then the next morning, we assumed that he just went off to the one set of group guys that was able to start a fire. So we all huddled around that one campfire and pretty much got zero sleep, and then dawn came up, and then they came back and they got us the next morning, the leaders did. Little did we know there was a crisis going on in camp that night. There was a code blue camper lost that evening, and it was Bradley Ailes that had gotten lost, who had really just decided he wasn't going to do wilderness survival anymore and went back to camp because you were having a flag burning that evening to ceremoniously honor the use of a flag that was worn out. So this entire panic happened and we had no clue it even existed. Anyways, let's see here. All right, so maybe I'll just ask for a small audience participation. If you've been a parent or a family member of Scouts or ever in Scouts, every Scout loves to do what?
Play with fire.
Yeah. Okay, glad that hasn't changed. Play with fire, set things on fire, explode things, throw things in a fire. Right, okay, everything to do with fire. So, I remember one camping trip specifically that Brad and Pierce had found a box of flares. And it was an old box of flares, it was abandoned, it had been waterlogged. You know, you think leaves smoke, pine cones, they flare up. Things with sap, pine, these are all good things. We had all tested these things many times. We'd never tested flares. So that night on Reddish Knob, I think it was Reddish Knob, and it's really cool because it's a knob and there's thick forest all around, but at the very top of this knob there's like a meadow, so it's very open there. And I do remember that a lot of our tents are in the trees because it's really breezy up there, but our main campfire was out in the middle of the meadow. So we did ask for permission, Mr. Graham, can we throw a flare in the fire? Yes, we can. Threw one in. Green flame. Pretty bright. Ooh, ah. And I think the logical step would have been throw 2 flares, so 3 flares next. I think before we even realized what he was doing, Bradley Ailes had taken the box and thrown the entire box onto the fire. And do you know that moment at nighttime if you're taking a picture and then the flash lights everything up for once, and you're like, oh, I can see, you know, 30 feet away. We all simultaneously turned 180 degrees away from something that was the brightness of an exploding star and saw this effect of a flash across the entire forest for a solid 30 seconds. I'm pretty sure we could have signaled somebody in space, or there's an alien abduction on this mountain. Anyone from that, we have to look up online to see if there's any camp stories of like, I saw Reddish Knob explode the other night. But I'm sure it's out there somewhere. So, okay. But then the only other things that I had to say was just in closing was I really remember, and I thought the coolest experience of my life was the 2 50-miler backpacking trips that we did. And there's never I've never felt like it's such a piece of like solitude being in the forest, so far away from civilization, around these scouts and these leaders. And actually one of the scariest moments I've ever had in scouting happened on one of them. And it wasn't the nests of baby copperheads that we found by the river. It was actually the first camping trip, and I believe I was pulling up the rear because I was making sure there was no stragglers, and I came up upon Mr. Graham sitting down on a rock, and he didn't look good at all. He was actually suffering from heat stroke. And I just remember being terrified. I just had never seen you like that before. And it was a really scary moment for me. And there was this moment that all these scouts, Pierce and myself including, were kind of like vying for or offering to pack out your pack. We all had our own, and you know, they're all around 60-pound packs or whatnot, and you know, it's supposed to be a 30-year weight, so yours was a little bit larger than ours, but I don't think it was a moment of who's going to be the biggest tough guy. In my mind, in the way I felt, and I'm sure Pierce, of course his letter says the same thing, it was kind of a way of us honoring our leader. And that's how I still feel about it. So, that's one of my highlights of scouting, is being able to carry your pack that next couple of miles or so to the next car pickup. So, I basically just want to say that, you know, I love you, Mr. Graham. I know you said that earlier to me. You said, I don't know how much I love you, and I was like, yeah, I do. Build back. And of course, I love you, Dad. And I can't think of 2 better men to lead more guys like myself in scouting. And I really appreciate every opportunity and every experience I ever had, the good and the bad. So, thank you guys.
Check, check. Mr. Graham once told me that it was a very bad idea to carry a Dutch oven on a 50-mile trip. Well, my name's Joe Barrett, and I'm an Eagle Scout from 2006, and I was finally able to convince both Mr. Graham and Mr. Liskey to let me carry that Dutch oven 50 miles. Well, it seemed like a pretty good idea, you know, when we got to the truck. And then we started walking. And on the first day, I did okay, and on the second day, 12-pound piece of metal started to get heavier, and the third day it got heavier, and the fourth day it got heavier. But then on the 5th day, after eating Mountain House, meals for 5 days, breaking out that Dutch oven, and then cooking up a nice pot of chili made it all worthwhile. And I think most of us, ate chili that night, and it definitely became worth it. But after scouting, I became an Eagle Scout, and I naturally progressed in life on to the next stage, and I joined the Army National Guard. And it's because of the leadership I experienced in this troop that I was able to really succeed in the Army National Guard. I'm now a sergeant in the Army National Guard, and I've used my leadership skills that I learned from Mr. Graham and Mr. Liskey and Mr. Clark and several of the other leaders that, I've moved forward, and I'm now leading a whole bunch of men, in a time of crisis, really. But the Army National Guard offered me something very unique. They offered me an opportunity to go to what they call Mountain Warfare School. Mountain Warfare School is one of the tougher schools the Army has to offer, and it has to deal a lot with backpacking, climbing, transporting casualties across ravines, rivers, all kinds of stuff that is extreme scouting type of stuff. One of the biggest things that fails everyone out of this course is knot tying. Well, having been an Eagle Scout, I'm a master at knot tying, and I was able to really just fly through that course and do extremely well. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunity for, just for being a scout and having the good leadership that I had. So thank you, Mr. Graham. Thank you, Mr. Liskey.
Thank you, Joe. Hi, I'm Johnny Lohr, an Eagle Scout from 2012, and I just want to tell a little story about old Malt Lickey. Ooh, that's a good one too. I'll start off with how I got the name. One day we were riding, actually left here from church. It was me, Mr. Graham, and Corbin Fawley. I think it might have been Will Hancock also in the car. And we were riding, and something was going on with the radios, and people were doing a lot of radio chatter between all the cars. And Mr. Graham goes to call Mr. Liskey to ask him what was going on. And for some reason this day, Mr. Graham couldn't speak. So he just opened up the radio and goes, "Hey, Malt Lickey, Malt Lickey." And that's really how that one got started. That was some brilliance right there, Mr. Graham. But I remember when I first joined the troop, I knew that Mr. Graham and Mr. Liskey were the heads of the troop, but Mr. Graham was always more vocal and more out there, and also I thought a little bit crazier. So I remember on the first 50 miler, one day I decided to hang back with Mr. Liskey just to see how the more sane of the two acted. Little did I know Mr. Liskey was geocaching at the time, right? And we were walking along this river trail, yes, and he was looking for geocache. I had no idea what that was, so I asked him, and he explained it to me and said that he got a tip, however they do it, that he was in a hole in the side of a rock wall. Well, I looked down this rock wall, and there's about 50 holes. All of them look like great places for rattlesnakes to be. And I just watch him, and he walks over, kind of checks in it, and he shoves his hand in there. Feels it out, nope, not in that one. And that's when I realized that he wasn't the same one. Mr. Graham, I think I've given you enough digs to last a lifetime. So I'm going to do a little bit different today and give you a little bit of honor, because I don't think I'd be at this point in my life if it wasn't for you. You set me on a different course than I probably would have ended up. You taught me good skills like how to sleep standing up. That was a good one. And I really just don't think I would have gotten to where I am now if it wasn't for you. Thank you.
So my name's Ian Sander. I'm an Eagle Scout from 2011, I think, was when I got my Eagle Scout project. And so I just want to really honor Mr. Graham and Mr. Liskey for what they did in my life, because I was one of the weirdest little scouts. I was so weird. Like one of the stories is growing up. I mean, I'm still wearing shorts, but like growing up, I would always wear shorts. And so Mr. Graham's like, "All right, I'm gonna cure this boy of this. So one time we're on a backpacking trip back in, it was in January. There was like ice in this river, and we were going in home quarry. There's a river running through the trail, and so all the other scouts were like, "Oh, let's find it on the way." I'm like, "Oh, I can wade across because I have shorts and sandals on; they'll just dry." And I'm like, "All right, I got this." And so Mr. Graham's like, "Hey Ian, can you take my pack over?" So he had me go across and back and across and back at least 3 times, taking other people's packs over. And, you know, it didn't change me, so.
I actually gave up.
Yeah, but yeah, they've been great. When I came to the troop, I didn't even know how to light a lighter. Now all the pyromaniac stuff that we've been through, and it's just been the morals they've taught me, and the skills they've taught me will last a lifetime. And I really appreciate everything they've done for me, and just the way they honored me, even when I was a little scout with all these weird ideas, and just the way they treated me was always with honor, and always in a very Christ-like manner. And I'm very proud to say that I knew you and I learned under both of you. So thank you both very much.
Hey, Mitchell here. Just wanted to say thanks so much to not only you guys for leading the troop, but just like making sure that none of us burned to death in that particular scenario, because like we did so many things, so many dangerous things, that, like instances of just like taking aerosol cans, burning ants off of logs, to maybe jumping over fires, or just carrying them around. I don't know. We did some very stupid things, and I just wanted to say thank you for crafting all of us hooligans into really swell guys and everything. And you really taught some stuff. Personally, I have learned to be pushed farther than I ever was before, like by these guys, like be going down a trail not thinking you could make it, but with the support of all of our fellow scouts and leadership, it really changed me and everything, and it helped me later in my life get jobs and tons of great stuff. So I just want to say thank you.
All right, I'm Josh Hedrick. I was an Eagle Scout since 2008, and I just want to start off by saying Mr. Graham and Mr. Liskey are an advantage here. They're taking advantage of our young childhood. We can't really remember as much from all the events that we've experienced, all the fires that we've jumped over. I just wanted to reassure to the parents that all those stories that you were hearing were without permission from. They're the ones that we go to saying, we're sorry, and we have to explain ourselves. It's that moment where you get in trouble at home and then you have to go and tell Dad. It's just one of those feelings. And our leadership staff for Troop 72 are just father figures to us. And they're more than that too. It's big brothers, it's father figures, or guys you can go to for advice on anything. And they made it so free and clear for us to do that. And I mean, I'm one of the scouts where I created a lot of stories. I don't remember them all. Mr. Graham does. And he clearly brings it out whenever I'm with him in a group setting or something. And I did that to myself, and that's how you learn. You learn by your mistakes, and you create stories and have fun, move on. And
You remember the time I rolled your arm up in the window?
I think it was a trip close to that. You also backed into a tree.
He didn't say any bad words.
I didn't learn any words that day. One of the biggest things that I appreciate from Mr. Graham and Mr. Liskey is that they let us be boys. And I think as a troop, we were very blessed and very lucky to be in a place where we were allowed to be ourselves, to run in the woods, to make dares and bets and go do stuff. And we weren't that stereotypical scout troop that brought our Game Boys. You know, we had those guys, and we all. The cool thing was that he was able to bring us all together to be one big family and one big group, and take responsibility for each other and look out for one another. And I didn't see that in any of the other troops. When you go to different Klondikes and different outings, you know, it was like I felt really lucky to be a part of a family, and so just a really cool, stereotypical band of brothers. But we all took ownership of that and our actions, and it was just, it made it more fun, especially when we're doing dog sled racing and stuff. We always had the best athletes, and I loved it. Especially if we have a small guy, like Mouse. Where are you? I saw you in here a second ago. Where are you? You're over there. Okay, so I have a story about him. I was the same size as you, probably even smaller at the time. But this one particular Klondike, there was like 6 of us that were in football at the time, and we were just, let's bring our football cleats. And we were going to win this dog sled race. And little did we know that this dog sled race at, what was it, Split Lake? Or
Fort Cyber.
Fort Cyber. Yeah. The trail was a mile long, and you go up a mountain, and then the back side of it is like it's steep, and it's all leaves. And so we take off running. Isaac Schickel has his, or Kenneth and Isaac, they had a boombox that we had like duct tape or roped to our dog sled. And we had like AC/DC playing and stuff, and we were all amped up. And after the first AC/DC song, it changed to Casting Crowns and worship music. As we're running up the hill, we couldn't change it, we couldn't stop. So for the whole time, we were listening to worship music as we were racing these guys. And so here we are running through the woods. We were the second ones to go. We passed the first group within like the first minute and a half. And then we get up to this really steep embankment, and there's just trees, and we're just like digging through, pulling up, grabbing whatever we could to get over the mountain. Guys hanging on, I don't know, it happened really fast. And so here we are, we're coming down the last part of the mountain, and we're giving it our all. I don't know why, but we're just doing it. You know, it's a race, it's a competition. We had ate really well before then, gearing our bodies up, and here we are coming down to the finish line, and we couldn't stop. And it's a really sharp turn through this gate, and it's just all mud and muck, and I just want to keep calling you Mouse because at the time that's who you were. This whole time, he hadn't even been running with us. He had been just holding on, going down the mountain. And we couldn't know because we were in the front. And we were running for our lives because once you felt slack in the rope, that just meant that the sled was just running down the mountain by itself and it's chasing you. So we're running out of fear this whole time. And here we are, we come to the end, we turn the corner, and we're dragging him, rolling him through the mud. We pull over. I threw up right there, just right on the ground. Mr. Graham told me that I didn't even chew my food before then. I ate it too fast. But that's just one of the many stories. I mean, when I first joined Scouts, Pierce, Jared, these guys, these were all in their latter years when me, Kent, and a few other guys joined at the time. And so we got to watch them, learn from them and their mistakes, and we improved on their mistakes. We made better ones. A little more creativity. This is where our creativity, our fire making starts, you know, learn all that. Throwing bug spray into the fires and without permission. I remember there's another story when we first joined. We went to Elkhorn Lake, and I wanted to hang out with all the older guys, and so me, David, and Ken, and a few other guys followed these older guys. We were like, where are they going? And they're going up the river, this this stream that runs into Elkhorn Lake. It's like early March. It's like right around this time.
Snow on the ground.
Snow on the ground. Ice everywhere. And here we are. We come across Jim Stevens is on top of a huge log overhanging the creek bed, and he's just straight up in his boxers. and here we are, we're all making bets, say, hey, I bet you can't jump in, we'll give you $20 to do it. And Pierce was there, and he got up on the log, he's like, I'll do it for $20. And at that time, it's a whole crowd of scouts, and then Mr. Graham and Mr. Litzky are like, where did all our scouts go? And so they've thrown their gear, their trekking poles, and they just take off down the stream, and they come across this gathering of scouts around this body of creek water, and here they are. Jim Stevens is up on this log in his boxers, and it's like he just caught us in the middle of the act. And I remember we all felt like, crap, we're in trouble, like we're not supposed to be doing this. He told us not to go in the water or anything, and he just slowly walks up and he's like, I'm just gonna watch. and he let us just be goofballs by ourselves, and that's one of the biggest appreciations that I have. You jumped in that water. I felt like I walked on water, because as fast as I was in, I was out. And I mean, it takes your breath away. You just stick your big toe in there, and you just learn from that stuff, you know? And so it's just really good experiences, and I really appreciate the wisdom that we receive. During the big campfires, we gather around and tell stories. Mr. Graham always tells the best stories. Mr. Clark always builds the best fires. It's a good time to be essentially men. And so that's our beginning stages. And thank you, parents, for letting us doing that. I know it's money, involvement, and at the time we don't really realize how much you all put into that. And so that's definitely not possible. And so thank you for everything, and I look forward to continuing our relationship. Because that's one of the best things about them, is that they want to know what's happening beyond scouting, because it's just setting you up for life. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
I could share lots of stories, but actually I'm a transplant. I started with another troop, and things being what they were, I ended up coming here. And one of the greatest compliments of leadership is it was either the first or second meeting, I sat outside and talked to Joe Barrett. And the biggest compliment somebody can give a leadership is said, yeah, I consider Mr. Graham like my second father. For a teenager to say that is the best compliment that, you know, and then that just spoke volumes to me. It's like, okay, this troop's going to be a little bit different. And it's been a blessing to be involved in this troop. Mr. Graham has shared lots of stories over the campfire. One story that sticks out to me, which is probably why he's very motivational to get boys to complete the Eagle. I'm not sure which year, but he played football in high school and got hurt. They carried him to the hospital. His mother comes to see him, and he thinks he's going to get a little love and all this. And his mother, and you can correct me if I'm telling a story wrong, his mother leans over to where he's laying down and goes, now you got time to work on the Eagle Scout project, don't you? That's one of the many stories that have stuck with me, and it's been a pleasure. I actually had Jonathan Lord in my truck on the first trip, and it's a blessing to see, and it's a privilege to see your young men grow through teenage years. That's just life.